Welcome in, everybody. A little Thursday morning edition, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. If you notice, the schedule is a little bit different here today on a Thursday morning. And I guess we'll just kind of jump in with an announcement here to start the show here on a Thursday. And that's this, is that we're going to change up the time of the Aaron Torres pod a little bit. By the way, producer Matt is on his way to Waco for the Baylor-Auburn game on Friday night. So I am riding solo. But bring it up because, listen, just to start the show, just want to kind of make a quick little scheduling note, is that, I just feel like once we get to football season, it's kind of hard. Schedules are a little bit different. We have football on Sunday nights. We have football on Thursday nights. And so in general, going forward, do think that we are going to go ahead and do our show every, Sunday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, and we will still continue to do all of the good stuff, all the good stuff that we're always doing here on this show. But just bring it up because if you're watching on Thursday morning, guess what? We are going to go ahead and do this show on in the mornings. By the way, we already have a question on Dave Portnoy, Ryan Day, Ohio State. Oh, we're going to discuss all that, and here's why, because we have a loaded, jam-packed show. I will give you my Week 1 picks. We will talk a little bit about the Portnoy news of the week. Did you see this story about another round of potential realignment? The SEC eyeing two specific schools, so we'll discuss that. Do want to wrap also college hoops. So the bottom line is that basically as we get deeper into college football season, remember every single time that there are college football games on a Saturday, you know what that means? That means that there is college hoops recruiting news to discuss. So we'll go through all the big visits. We do this every Friday during the fall. The big visits this weekend, Arkansas is hosting guys, Indiana's hosting guys, North Carolina, NC State, etc. Before we get started, a couple quick reminders. The first reminder, all of our lines this year, they will be presented by our new partners. We are so excited to be working with Circa Casino and Sportsbook, okay? So Circa Casino, when we're in Las Vegas, they are our official home. We're going to be doing live shows there all year long. When I'm out in Vegas for college hoops, when I'm out in Vegas for March Madness, for the first weekend, or, not just the first weekend of the college basketball tournament, but also championship week. Circa is our home. We're so excited to be working with them. Beautiful casino in Vegas. But the other reason we're excited to be working with them, they are opening up a brand new facility. They have opened up a brand new facility, Mint Kentucky Downs, in Franklin, Kentucky, okay? So if you live on that Kentucky-Tennessee border, if you're in Ohio, if you're in Indiana, this is the best place to go watch college football every single Saturday, right? The bottom line is that we now live in a world where you need all sorts of apps. You're paying out your butt, not just for cable, but for Peacock, for Paramount, for whatever. You don't need to pay for all that. All you got to do is go to Circa Sportsbook, the new Circa Sportsbook, Franklin, Kentucky, Mint Kentucky Downs. We'll be doing some live shows there as we get closer to college basketball, but so fired up to be working with Circa. We really do appreciate their support. All right, so with that said, I've rambled enough to lead the show. There is no more time to waste. Let's go ahead and get to the topic of the day. Topic of the day, listen, let's go ahead and just dive into Week 1. It's Week 1. We got games starting tonight. By the way, this is another reason why we're going live early here on a Thursday morning, is because about 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern time, we have nothing but live games going forward. And so what I want to do is just rip through all of my best bets. By the way, it's worth noting, last year's best bets, college football. So a lot of people think, oh, Torres just knows college basketball. My best bets in college football, 62%. 55 and 33 overall. I promise you there was no one giving out best bets that had a better run than I did. So I just bring it up to solely say the best bets were on fire last year. This year we have, I believe, 6 best bets for Week 1. Let's go ahead and dive in really quick. Obviously, the games start tonight. We're going to go ahead and skip past tonight. I didn't really love anything on the board for this evening. If you want to bet Nebraska, Cincinnati at Arrowhead, that's fine. If you want to bet Boise, USF, that's fine. But let's go ahead instead and focus, in my opinion, on the games where they start to get interesting. First one, Friday night. This one is in Boulder, Colorado. Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes hosting the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. The spread at Circa Sportsbook is 4 points. Georgia is a 4-point road favorite. The over-under set at 51.5. Listen, I'll tell you this. I like Coach Prime, and I like the Colorado Buffaloes. Bottom line is, listen, I thought last year a lot of the odds makers they never really figured out Colorado. If you go back to last year, Colorado went 9-4 overall. They were also 9-4 against the spread, 0-2 to start the season. So they went 9-2 against the spread basically from mid-September on. You fast forward to this year, Colorado, they bring in Caden Salter as the transfer portal addition at quarterback. I don't think he gets enough credit for just how good he is, the impact that he has had at the college football level. By the way, I mentioned this the other day on the college football betting pod is, do people understand how good Colorado's defense was a few years ago or last year, excuse me? I wonder how many people would know. Colorado last year led the Big 12 in sacks and TFLs, because I'm guessing not too many people know that, okay? And so I bring it up because most of their front seven returns, Sam Okunlola, Keaton Wade, who began his career at Kentucky, Arden Walker, on and on. And Colorado's defense is filthy. Georgia Tech, I respect what they're building. I actually respect the growth of Haynes King. Remember him, the former Texas A&M quarterback. Turns out maybe he was fine all along, and it was Jimbo Fisher that was the problem. But I think to ask Georgia Tech to go on the road, short week, I don't love this spot. Go ahead and give me Colorado +4 at home. I'm going to take Colorado to win outright as well, but that is our official first best bet of the week, Colorado +4.5. All right, let's keep it going. Second game. This is obviously also on Friday night. Shout out to producer Matt. He is off today because he is traveling to Waco, Texas for Baylor hosting Auburn. Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. The over-under set at 58.5 in this game. I'll just say transparently, listen, this isn't a hot take, but there is no one that has more pressure on him going into this weekend, I believe, than Hugh Freeze. And so because of it, I kind of like the under because of how I think this game is going to be played. Hugh Freeze going on the road. Jackson Arnold, of course, is the quarterback. After all of the turnovers that Auburn had last year, remember they finished last in last in the SEC, in turnover margin. Hugh Freeze is just going to want to not put his quarterbacks in a bad position. They have a great defense. Frankly, probably the best defense that Baylor will see all year. As far as Baylor, the offense is explosive, but they are down their two of their top three running backs, And I would also add this with Baylor. The offense got hot late in the season a year ago, but my counter to that is pretty straightforward, is look at some of the teams they beat. West Virginia fired their coach. A couple other teams that did not make bowl games. They were not beating the best teams in the Big 12 with that offense. I think this game has 24-21, 21-20 written all over it. My hunch is that Auburn gets the win, but I think the best bet is actually the under here. Let's keep it going to Saturday. Obviously, we know what the big one is. Saturday afternoon, we are talking, of course, about number 1 versus number 3. You don't need me to tell you the big one, the defending champs against the number 1 team in the country, Ohio State hosting Texas. Ohio State, a 1.5-point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. The over-under set at 47.5. Listen, I actually like Texas. Listen, everybody has analyzed and overanalyzed this game. The one thing I keep coming back to is really two things, actually. One, don't know much about the Texas offense. Don't know much about the Ohio State offense or defense because of all the new pieces. The one place where there's pretty much consistency across the board is the Texas defense. Colin Simmons coming back could be an All-American. Anthony Hill coming back was an All-American a year ago. Those are two of the best defensive players anywhere in college football, not to dismiss Caleb Downs from Ohio State, not to dismiss some of the offensive weaponry that Ohio State has, including Jeremiah Smith. But I just sit there and say, I trust that Texas defense. You know what else I trust? I trust Steve Sarkisian to put a good game plan in place, help his quarterback out, not put too much on Arch Manning's plate. And do you know who Steve Sarkisian's going up against? The new Ohio State defensive coordinator is Matt Patricia. Remember that name? former Detroit Lions head coach, former wonder kid defensive coordinator for New England under Bill Belichick. He then becomes a head coach. It's kind of a disaster. He comes back to New England. He's kind of a disaster. I just don't know that I trust this guy that much. And especially against Steve Sarkisian, maybe the best play caller in all of college football. To be clear, I think it's close. I think the score is respectable, but I also think it's one of those scenarios where it's hard for me to envision, Ohio State, even at home, getting this win. I think Ohio State's going to be fine. If you listen to our full bracket show a few days ago, I did have Ohio State winning the Big Ten, but I have Texas winning this game, Texas covering the 1.5. Let's keep it going. 3:30 Eastern time. This is an intriguing one, right? Florida State hosting Alabama. Alabama, of course, year 2 of the Kalen DeBoer era. Alabama, a 13.5-point road favorite, according to Circa Sportsbook. The over-under set at 50.5. I'll be real. I actually like Florida State to cover in this game, Alabama to win outright, okay? So why do I like Florida State to cover? One, it's at home. And I just think we underestimate. Like, it's really hard to go on the road and beat anybody by 2 touchdowns. It doesn't happen as much as you think in college football, especially in this portal NIL era where transparently, like, just the talent levels aren't as big. The gaps aren't as big as they've been in the past, okay? So, one, Florida State's at home. The weather isn't going to be great. That's advantage the team that wants to run the ball as opposed to pass the ball. And speaking of run the ball, like, I know Gus Malzahn. I'm not saying that. Remember, by the way, I should mention, Gus Malzahn, former Auburn head coach, former UCF head coach, is now the offensive coordinator at Florida State. Decided to step away from being a head coach, becomes the coordinator. And you could say what you want about Gus Malzahn, the head coach. Gus Malzahn, the coordinator. Gus Malzahn, the guy designing plays. UCF had a top 5 rush offense in America last year, the number 1 rush offense among power conference teams. And so he's going to be able to create plays on the ground. The clock's going to keep moving. And I think Alabama finds a way to win. But on the road, this is just a tough spot. Tickets, by the way, $200+. We'll get to SeatGeek in a minute because we got a special promo code for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. But I just bring it up because Gus Malzahn, Florida State, get the win. By the way, I should mention while we're here, we are presented, as always, as you know, by America's number 1 ticketing app. We love working with them. SeatGeek is officially back as the partner of the Aaron Torres pod and Aaron Torres pod YouTube channel for the fall of 2025. Okay, so we worked with them during March Madness. Love working with SeatGeek. Why we love working with them? They're America's number 1 ticketing app. And oh, by the way, let's not forget this. They are the most, they're the most user-friendly ticketing app as well. Every single ticket is rated on the website 1 through 10. They give you a green dot or a red dot. Green means go ahead and purchase. Red means you might want to wait just a little bit before you make that purchase. That might not be the right ticket for you. That's why I love SeatGeek. They are not only the number 1 ticketing app, they are the most customer-friendly, the most user-friendly. And I solely bring it up to say we are working with them all fall, and they are an incredible partner of the Aaron Torres pod. How good of a partner is SeatGeek? Well, how about this? They are giving listeners of the Aaron Torres pod a special $20 off offer to anyone that listens to the Aaron Torres pod. All you got to do is go to SeatGeek.com or the SeatGeek app. Use promo code Torres. Use promo code Torres. They will give you $20 off your first purchase. By the way, a lot of you have already used it. You've texted me privately. You've DM'd me privately. Go ahead on Twitter. Tag me at Aaron_Torres. What game are you at? Did you use that SeatGeek promo? Help Torres out. Support the show. SeatGeek.com. Promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's go ahead and continue with the big games of the weekend. I have given you 4 picks so far. I like Colorado plus 4.5 at home. I like the Baylor-Auburn under. I like Texas to win outright against Ohio State. I also like Florida State plus 13.5 at Alabama. Let's go ahead and get to the late one. This is the one, I've said it for weeks. As far as the week 1 slate in college football is concerned, my belief is kind of that, Texas, Ohio State is for the casuals. If you are a diehard, if you're the casual college football fan that's coming in, you're more of an NFL fan, you're looking for something to watch on Saturday, everybody's going to tune into Texas, Ohio State. The counter to that, in my opinion, is that I think Clemson-LSU is kind of the game for the people who love college football. Brian Kelly, 0-3 in openers at LSU. If they lose this game, the narratives are going to swirl. The narratives are going to get crazy. And then for Clemson, listen, are you a real national title contender? You got to beat a top-flight SEC team at home. The spread in this one, Clemson -4, the over-under set at 57.5. I'll be real. I like Clemson to win. I like Clemson to cover, okay? So first of all, I don't want to dismiss Clemson, but to me, part of the story here, I don't get the Garrett Nussmeier hype. We have talked about it over and over and over again this offseason. People treat Garrett Nussmeier like he's some franchise-changing, sport-changing college quarterback. That's just not who he is. I see people talking about him as the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I don't get it. To me, he's this year's Will Levis. To me, he's this year's Quinn Ewers. He is a guy that people are going to tune in and say, that's the guy that you guys are hyping as the number 1 overall pick. I don't see it. The big stat with Garrett Nussmeier, 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in 8 SEC games a year ago. He has not been great against great competition. Wide receiver core is a little bit better. Nick Anderson coming in from Oklahoma. Aaron Anderson returning at LSU. The O-line's kind of interesting. Several new pieces there. I'll just be real. Clemson's at home. Great home field environment. This is a home field environment that I think actually matters. I think, you look at like a Notre Dame, Miami, which we're going to talk about in a minute. How big is home field to really play? We don't know. North Carolina, are they going to have a crazy home field? We don't know. The one thing we do know, Clemson is going to be loud. It's going to be rocking. And I think people are going to tune in looking to see the number 1 overall pick in the draft and Garrett Nussmeier. I think Cade Klubnik's going to put on a show. Those 3 elite wide receivers, Antonio Williams, Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore. The defense should be much better under Tom Allen. Listen, if you've listened to this show, I'm high on Clemson. I think if you've listened, have them to win the national championship this year. Have Cade Klubnik winning the Heisman. I like Clemson to win this game. I actually think I don't want to say it's not competitive, but I will say final score like 28-17, Clemson wins convincingly. Let's keep it going. Sunday night. Ooh, buddy, this is a fun one. Top 10 matchup between the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the Miami Hurricanes. This game is in Miami. As I just mentioned, I expect a lot of Notre Dame fans there. By the way, if you're a Notre Dame fan, again, SeatGeek.com, use promo code Torres, get 20% off your first purchase. But I'll tell you this, the spread in this one, Notre Dame -2.5, the over-under set at 49.5. I actually like the over in this game. Okay, let me explain why. First of all, Carson Beck. I know he's kind of a punching bag. I know it's easy to make fun of Carson Beck. I know it's easy to say, he kind of stunk. For a guy that stunk last year at Georgia, 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, not a terrible season, not a terrible season, especially when you remember Georgia led the country in dropped passes. The O-line was kind of a mess all season long. And so I just bring it up because to me, if that's a bad season, imagine what he can do in a half decent season in an inferior conference. Okay. But Carson Beck, it's his first start at Miami. It's worth noting CJ Carr, his first career start at Notre Dame. I know some people would say, how can you take the over with a quarterback making his first career start? My counter to that would be pretty straightforward. 2 new starting quarterbacks, 2 new defensive coordinators as well. Corey Heatherman is the new defensive coordinator at Miami. Yeah, I'm going to call him Corey Weatherman at some point over the course of the season. Forgive me, it's going to happen. And then remember, Al Golden, the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, is gone. Chris Ash comes in as the defensive coordinator. This guy hasn't called plays on defense since 2020. I think both offenses move the ball. Jeremiah Love, maybe the best running back in all of college football. I have Notre Dame, Miami going over on Sunday night. Finally, let me say this because this has obviously become a hot talking point in the world of college football. It's Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina. Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. How about this? They are a 3.5-point home underdog to TCU. The over-under set at 56.5. I'll be real. Am I the only one that feels like we're kind of, is it possible, like not giving Bill Belichick enough credit right now? Like it sounds crazy. But I just feel like, there's been so much talk about the girlfriend and his personal life and whatever. We understand this is one of the great defensive minds in the history of football, right? And we understand that not only is it one of the great defensive minds in the history of football, but let's also not forget that, excuse me, what is Bill Belichick's claim to fame? You give him time, his defense is going to give you problems. You give him time, he's going to mess with young quarterbacks. So now 8 months he has to prepare for Josh Hoover and TCU. I'm sorry. I actually like the under in this one pretty convincingly. Is that, by the way, it was at 58.5 on Monday in the Circa Sportsbook, down to 56.5. So I just bring it up because it's going down in a hurry. But I look at this game and it's like, Bill Belichick's one of the great defensive minds in the history of football. Why are we pretending like just because he has a 24-year-old girlfriend that he forgot football? I don't get it. I think this is an easy under. This feels like 20-17, 21-17, something like that written all over it. I think Carolina wins the opener, but my best bet is the under. Really quickly, all my best bets posted on Instagram, Aaron Torres pod, also Aaron_Torres. I do have my 6 best bets for week 1. Friday night, Colorado plus 4.5 hosting Georgia Tech. I have the Baylor-Auburn under. Saturday, I have Texas plus 1.5 money line basically against Ohio State. I also have Florida State plus 13.5 against Alabama. I have Clemson in that one, -4 against LSU. I have the Notre Dame Miami over. And I also have UNC going under against TCU. Again, all these picks are available on social media, Aaron_Torres, at Aaron Torres pod on Instagram. And oh, by the way, AaronTorresOnline.com. We always have a big write-up. All those lines courtesy of Circa Sportsbook. Tell you what, for a Thursday morning, we got a lot going on in the chat. I'm so glad we got going live here early. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to get to Pooh Bear's question about our buddy Dave Portnoy. We'll talk a little bit about a very intriguing story about realignment. 2 new teams being eyed by the SEC. We'll go ahead and discuss that. And then we always wrap on our Friday shows, little college hoops recruiting. College football season means visits ramp up in college hoops. We'll discuss all that. Quick break. Producer Matt's out, so I got to do all my own work. Be right back. All right, we're going to get back to the show in a minute. But before we do, I have so many people that reach out and say, Torres, you give me hours and hours and hours of free content every day, every month, every year. What can I do to help support the show? Well, you want to support the show and look good in the process. Make sure to check out and support the Aaron Torres Media merch store at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Some of you wondering, what can I get in that merch store, Torres? Well, Kentucky fans, we got our Mark Pope Hope and Pope t-shirts. That is right. Mark Pope, monster first year. Year 2 is going to be even better. Get your Hope and Pope t-shirt at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. Arkansas fans, the Big Pig Invasion is coming. It is here. John Calipari has things rocking. Get your Big Pig Invasion tees. Again, AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. St. John's fans, we have our Big Rick Energy t-shirts. And if you're just a college basketball fan in general, guess what? Your March is for Day Drinking shirt. That is the shirt that you need year-round, but especially for the next NCAA tournament. You can order yours now. By the way, football fans, we got you covered too. Auburn fans, we already know the freeze warning has hit the plains. Make sure to get your freeze warning t-shirts. Also, Nebraska fans, new era, new rules, the t-shirt that you need before the start of this coming season. And oh, by the way, if you're a Colorado fan, if you're just a Coach Prime fan, we have our Dion shirts and hats, more of them than we know what to do with. So to check out the full line of Aaron Torres Media merch and also support the show, good news is we're going to have even more for the fall. Check out the Aaron Torres Media merch store at AaronTorresOnline.com/merchandise. And for more information, you can always reach out at Aaron Torres Podcast Questions at gmail.com. All right, everybody, I am back. Good to be back. So tell you what, let's keep the conversation going. A couple stories. So we haven't done a live show since Monday night. I've been a little bit under the weather, to be totally transparent. So I'm just trying to survive, get us to week 1. We will have a full reaction show Sunday morning to everything that happened in week 1. But, the chat is humming. I give you guys credit here on a Thursday morning getting going here. And Pooh Bear asked me about the story of the week. He says, AT, if you take Ohio soft and Crying Ryan over Texas, I'm going to pull my hair out. This, of course, in reference to a story that later on Luke Shoemaker, has brought up. OSU definitely banned Dave Portnoy. I think it's their middle finger to Fox. We'll get to the comment in a second. But before we do, let me just kind of go ahead and for people, I don't know how you could have missed this story over the last couple days, but we haven't been live. So let's spend 5 minutes talking about it. But listen, so Dave Portnoy, by the way, I'm just going to give you a little caveat off the top here because I think, on social media, people like to point fingers, whatever. I do host on Fox Sports Radio. By the way, 11 p.m. Eastern time every Saturday, we recap college football, okay? But I bring it up because, how about this? Fox Sports Radio is not owned by Fox Sports, okay? Fox Sports Radio is actually owned by iHeart. My checks come from iHeart, whatever. So I have no inkling into what happens at FS1. They're not even the same company technically, because I know what I'm going to say. Whatever I say, people are going to be like, oh, you're just saying this because you work for Fox Sports, blah, blah, blah. Okay, here's the truth. I don't work for FS1. I don't work for Fox Sports. I work for Fox Sports Radio, which is owned by iHeart. I have I'm not privy to what has happened, but so I can discuss it just like you guys, like you and I would, okay? So as far as the Dave Portnoy stuff is concerned, okay, so Dave Portnoy, obviously Barstool icon, pizza icon, a lot of people like him because of Miss Peaches, his dog, but he obviously, listen, he is a huge internet personality. I give him a ton of credit. There were a million men's lifestyle blogs when I, was 19, 20, 21 years old. Barstool's the only one that became $1 billion company, okay? And so I have nothing but respect for Dave Portnoy. And over the last couple days, or over the last couple months, it's been announced that Barstool and FS1 have kind of reached a content partnership agreement. So every day, I think starting maybe this coming Monday or Tuesday, Barstool's going to do a 2-hour show on FS1. But part of the deal is that Dave Portnoy is also going to appear on Big Noon Kickoff. Now, the insinuation I think everybody kind of feels is that Pat McAfee has brought some juice to the ESPN College Game Day platform. So that must mean Fox has to find its own Pat McAfee. Is Dave Portnoy Pat McAfee? They're very similar. Of course, Pat McAfee started at Barstool Sports. Portnoy is a little bit different because he never actually played in the NFL, but it was certainly a press release that caught everybody's attention. What also caught everybody's attention was what came out on, I believe it was Monday night. Big Noon, of course, is Fox's pregame show. Not surprisingly, Fox has the Ohio State-Texas game. So not surprisingly, their pregame show, especially because it is a noon Eastern kickoff, is going to, start at the pregame show will begin its season tour in Columbus, Ohio for Texas, Ohio State. I don't think that's a shocker to anybody that the biggest Big Noon game, the biggest game of the week is Big Noon. So therefore Fox is going to have Fox is going to have its pregame show there. Portnoy expected to appear. Bring it up because it was either Monday or Tuesday night, a report comes out that Dave Portnoy, banned by Ohio State, not allowed to be on campus for that game, that he'll appear on the show remotely. It becomes this big internet thing. And then, of course, a few hours later, we find out the fact that Ohio State is now claiming that they had nothing to do with it, that it was Fox's decision. So let's go ahead and dive into this. And again, just because I work for Fox Sports Radio, I do not work for FS1, but I can give you my opinion because as Luke said in the chat, I'm sorry, it's pretty obvious that Ohio State banned Dave Portnoy. They didn't like the pushback, and so because of it, they tried to run interference. Nobody believes them, okay? So first of all, let's just look at this from a 30,000-foot view, okay? Let's put aside my opinion, your opinion, whatever, and let's put aside my allegiance to Fox Sports Radio, which, again, has nothing to do with FS1. Dave Portnoy, huge personality, great at what he does. And you made a big deal over the last 5-6 weeks, whatever it's been in the lead up to the season, that he is going to be part of your pregame coverage, okay? Well, I bring it up to very simply ask you, if you have spent the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks talking about how your revamped pregame show features this guy who's a lightning rod, who's this, who's that, who gets everybody excited, and now you're going to pull him not only week 1, but arguably the biggest game that you'll have all year. Now, you're obviously going to have Michigan, Ohio State to end the year, but there's no guarantee that Michigan's going to be good. There's no guarantee even that Ohio State is going to be good. And so for all we know, that could be a 7-5 team versus an 8-4 team. You know what is guaranteed to be a great game? The defending champion hosting the number one team in the country coming into the season. So the notion that Ohio State had nothing to do with this and that Fox chose not to bring one of its biggest personalities for his debut on the network, I'm sorry, it just doesn't add up. Now, listen, I think you can debate if Ohio State should have Dave Portnoy or not. I have no problem with him. Now, I don't know all of the details. You ask Ohio State fans, they'll tell you, well, Portnoy, he was talking smack about Ryan Day during the Connor Stallions investigation, and he was making stuff up. So he doesn't deserve to be on campus. Listen, Ohio State's allowed to do whatever they want. But one, I don't believe that this was Fox's decision. It makes zero sense. Two, Dave Portnoy and the Barstool guys have been very public about, like, I don't care what y'all are saying. The bottom line is that we are not allowed on campus. I saw a clip on social media where they basically insinuated, like, sorry, we had all of our travel booked. We were going to do our show from Columbus. They told us not to come. So it's obviously Ohio State's word versus Barstool. Barstool has no reason to make this up at all. And so, let's go based on common sense. It doesn't make sense for Fox to pull him off the broadcast or not bring him to Columbus. Barstool is saying definitively that they had travel planned. And when I'm telling you, as somebody who does this myself, when you plan travel, you're going to get there hell and high water unless you're told not to come. So I don't buy this notion that Ohio State is welcoming it. No. Ohio State clearly didn't want him. Ohio State clearly tried to run interference after it became a story. And let me say it. I'll just say it. The story's 3 or 4 days old, but why not? Ohio State's soft, man. Listen, and I've been a little bit of a Ryan Day critic if you listen to this show. I do think Michigan is in his head. I do think he coaches differently when they play Michigan. I do think all you have to do is go back to last year when they seemingly forgot to throw the ball to Jeremiah Smith, maybe the best player in college football last year. They just stopped throwing to him. And so I do think Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. I don't think he's figured him out. I do think he coaches tight. But listen, there's been this notion in the program that things have gotten a little bit soft since Ryan Day took over. That when Urban Meyer was there, it was like, all gloves were off. We aren't afraid of anybody. We're going to punch you in the mouth and we're absolutely fearless. And there is a little bit of a soft culture at Ohio State. Now, listen, I got to give them credit, because their $20 million roster won the national championship last year. You cannot take that away from them. But the counter to that is this isn't going to help things. And not only is it not going to help things, but I think, frankly, listen, Ohio State's always going to be national champion last year. They deserve the credit that they got. I'm not trying to dismiss what they did last year. But let's also call a spade a spade. Michigan still has the ultimate trump card, right? Wow, y'all won a natty and you still couldn't beat us? Y'all won a natty and we still have a 4-game winning streak against you? Y'all beat Texas and Tennessee and Notre Dame, but you couldn't beat Michigan? You know how, if I was Michigan, I'd be, strutting with my chest out too. But I do think there is something to Ohio State has a Michigan problem. Ohio State is intimidated by Michigan, and I do think this makes them look soft. If I'm Ohio State, I say bring it on. If I'm Ohio State and I'm the AD Ross Bjork, I go on that set and I spar with Dave Portnoy. Say, congrats on your 4 straight wins. Who cares? We won the natty, right? Isn't that the narrative in this world that we live in college football in this 12-team playoff era? No individual game matters as much. Rivalries aren't as important. We want to make them important. We want them to be important, but they're just not. Ohio State lost to Michigan last year and still won the national championship. So I don't think that this helps Ohio State in any way. And I don't know why it was done. I understand the thought of, Portnoy said some stuff about Ryan Day, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care. You know what I actually care about? I care about the fact that if I'm Ohio State, the fact that this just makes me look bad, it makes me look weak, and it's honestly just a little bit embarrassing as far as I'm concerned, as far as what it means for, the season ahead and things of that nature. So Ohio State wins the national championship, but you cannot tell me, I'm sorry, You cannot tell me that this is all coincidental, that Dave Portnoy is welcome on campus, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I just don't buy it. I'm sorry. I believe he was banned. I believe Ohio State is trying to run interference. And to get to Luke's point, to get to Luke's comment, Ohio State definitely banned Portnoy. I think it's their middle finger to Fox for carrying the load of Big Noon while their fellow trash conference members get to play bad games in late windows. Listen, as far as that is concerned, that's something that obviously has more to do with the new TV contracts. Again, I'll let everybody kind of insinuate that part of it. I just think they don't like Portnoy. I don't think that they don't like some of the stuff that he said. But yeah, Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports, they're not going anywhere. And here's the last part, because I know I'm rambling, because I want to get to this expansion rumor that I heard yesterday. But what I will say, it is just bad business. You can say whatever you want about the Big Noon window, whatever. But to me, it's bad business because Fox is your number one business partner, right? And Fox pays you whatever it is, 25, 30, 40, 50 million dollars a year. I mean, I know Fox isn't the only Big Ten partner. They're your biggest business partner. And it doesn't matter who the business partner is. The bottom line is you don't want to piss off your business partners. Doesn't matter who they are. And so I just think it's bad business. I don't think it makes sense. And I'll just say, I think it's a bad look for Ohio State. I just think they look really soft. I think they look really weak. And yes, I 1000% believe that this absolutely happened. All right. Speaking of business partners, really quick, before we get back to the show, because there is some realignment talk that I do want to discuss here in a minute. You know what we got to do? I mentioned it earlier, but I want to mention it again because they are an incredible partner. We're so fired up to be working with SeatGeek and SeatGeek.com. Number one ticketing app in America. I told you a minute ago, they rate every ticket 1 to 10. How about this? Green means go, red means stop. Green means it's a good ticket. That's probably one you want to go ahead and purchase. Red means that's one you probably want to stay away from. Best part is, if you are a listener of the Aaron Torres pod, SeatGeek is going to take care of you. SeatGeek.com. All you got to do, go to promo code Torres. Go SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. You get $20 off your first purchase. By the way, it doesn't have to be for a game, but I know so many of you are going to games this weekend. If you're getting last-minute tickets, you know somebody that needs tickets, you know somebody that wants tickets. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. All right, really quickly, I do want to go ahead and switch gears because I saw a story that caught my attention over the last couple of days. And I think, listen, week 1 is here. We want to get excited about the season ahead. We don't want to talk about all the negativity in college sports and the state of things and NIL and the transfer portal. But one thing that is always on the minds of pretty much everybody is realignment and expansion, right? Whatever you think of college sports, whatever you think of where things are, we know that this is not the final destination. I think we all kind of feel like eventually the Big Ten and the SEC are going to expand more. They're going to take more teams. And eventually we're going to get like an upper tier of college football that's, 36, 40, 48 teams, something like that, 20 to 24 teams in each conference. And that's going to kind of be the best college football. And then there will be a tier below it. It used to be a 1AA, then it was FCS. And I think a lot of these kind of second tier programs, even in the power conference level, might not survive. Is Boston College still considered a power conference team 10 years from now? Who knows? Cal, Stanford, some of the bottom of the Big 12, whatever. Well, I bring it up because, again, this is a topic that is a constant point of conversation. And I saw something very interesting. Brett McMurphy, now at On3, basically over the last couple of days, I don't know if he got this quote directly from somebody at Maryland, but, listen, it's behind a paywall, whatever. My spiel on paywalls. I'm not going to disrespect people who are behind paywalls. I do think we're now at a point where, like, everything doesn't have to be behind a paywall. Like, I see people's, like, my 5 biggest stories of the season, pay for it. And I'm like, don't know that it needs to be behind a paywall. Anyway, Brett McMurphy either talked to somebody from Maryland or at least, found a quote somewhere where Maryland basically said that they believe another round of realignment is coming. The Big Ten is not done expanding. And so we got an interesting quote about the 2 schools that could be next in realignment, not only for the Big Ten, but is it possible the SEC would be interested as well? We always talk about Florida State and Clemson. they might not be the two schools that people are most interested. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
I don't know about you guys. I was surprised he didn't say 24 because I think, that kind of what Andy laid out. I think we're going to be 20 or 24 with the SEC and the Big Ten. The question is, what is going on with the Big 12 and the ACC, and are they going to be allowed to be part of that group? I think it's very clear. Andy, you want to speculate recklessly about who it'll be? Look, after I reported that this morning, I immediately got a text from someone within the SEC and basically said what I've been thinking, and that is North Carolina and Virginia will be highly contested between both conferences. And where they end up, look, no one knows. It's impossible to say. But I do really believe that they are the most attractive to both leagues. And we'll have to see what happens. Again, 5 years is a long way off. 2 years is, light years way off. But speculate recklessly.
So there is Brett McMurphy with Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman on On3. Andy and Ari Show, I believe, is the name of the show, talking about realignment, talking about the fact that it's not Florida State and Clemson that are most coveted by these other conferences, but that the Big Ten and the SEC would actually most covet Virginia and North Carolina. Okay. So first of all, let me say this. First of all, I think we should even backtrack and kind of give timelines and all of that. And what I would say about it is that I think this is an important caveat, an important note. Okay. Is that in my opinion, no realignment is going to happen for another couple of years. Okay. So 2030 is kind of the year that everybody's got to circle. And I think Brett McMurphy might've even referenced it in that interview, basically saying like, look, nothing is really going to happen until 2030. And for people who don't understand why, that is when the buyouts go down quite a bit for the schools in the ACC. The ACC actually recently kind of agreed to like a pseudo restructuring of things over the last couple months. And that was basically because Florida State was suing. Florida State was trying to get out. Clemson was trying to follow suit. And basically the ACC kind of agreed to a restructuring. They're giving Florida State a little bit more money, on and on. But basically it ties everybody into this conference until at least 2030. So nothing is going to happen before 2030. But as far as North Carolina and Virginia are concerned, I've been telling you this, that story made its rounds. And it, by the way, during media days, there was a report that the SEC is eyeing North Carolina. I'll just be real. It makes for great headlines. These are not new pieces of information, okay? And why would the schools be interested? First of all, I think what you have to understand is at this point in realignment, here's the question and here's the conversation you have to ask, is what are schools adding to your conference, okay? And this is an important caveat. By the way, I am wearing my Carolina baby blue Hawaiian shirt. The Hawaiian shirt's more to celebrate because it's the first day of college football, the first day of week one. But I just bring it up because, we talk about realignment, I think everybody just assumes it's going to be the biggest brands, Clemson, Florida State, maybe Miami, whatever. But here's the truth, is what are you bringing to a conference, and are you adding value in a place that they don't have it, right? And so with Florida State and Clemson, this sounds crazy. I don't know how much value that they really add to the SEC in their current TV contract. Now, Texas and Oklahoma did. Texas is maybe the biggest brand in college football, certainly top three along Notre Dame and Ohio State. But, they also brought in two completely different markets that were not in the SEC at the time, Texas and Oklahoma. Okay. That's, probably 25, 30 million people. I don't have the dynamics or, the demographics off the top of my head, but they added a different market that was not there before. You add Florida State and South Carolina, they don't really add all that much, and they don't really alter the TV contract all that much because Florida is already covered. South Carolina is already covered with the Florida Gators and the South Carolina Gamecocks. And so for the SEC to expand, it has to make sense and it has to create more revenue for them. And I'm just not sure that South Carolina or that Clemson and Florida State do. At the same time, What does become interesting is that I think North Carolina and Virginia would create more revenue. One, they're contiguous states, which means they're part of that SEC footprint, obviously bordering current SEC states. But two, the SEC doesn't have a presence in North Carolina. They don't have a presence in Virginia. And Virginia and North Carolina add value to those specific conferences. Now, as far as the Big Ten is concerned, the Big Ten, of course, is just trying to add schools that make sense from an athletic standpoint, but also from an academic standpoint as well. The Big Ten, we all know, leaders and legends. I mean, their big thing in expansion has been, is it the right, not only athletic fit, but academic fit as well? They've been, for the most part, pretty cautious. Maryland is a good academic school when they were added. Rutgers brought that New York City market. Was it overrated? Was it underrated? I don't know, but Rutgers is a pretty good school as well. And then those West Coast schools, USC is a very good school. UCLA is a very good school. Washington is a very good school as well. Oregon brings some academic prowess, but certainly a very good football program as well. So to me, I think it's interesting. I do think it is worth noting again. I think realistically, there will be no realignment until probably 2030 at the earliest. But I do think North Carolina and Virginia are the schools that both leagues are going to covet for a little bit of a different reason. Again, I think they both add something to the current TV package of each of the conferences already. But then I think beyond that, once you get beyond that, you start to realize that, wait a second now, they add stuff academically, they add stuff athletically, they're a part of the country that we're not currently in. And I'll also add this, too, as we head into week 1 of the Bill Belichick era at North Carolina. I think that's part of the reason Bill Belichick was hired at North Carolina. They want to have a good football program, which will make them more attractive when that next round of realignment comes. I saw, by the way, Ross Dellinger from Yahoo Sports actually put out an article earlier in the day basically insinuating just that, is that there's a lot of reasons Belichick came back to college. There's a lot of excitement, but one of the big reasons from North Carolina's side of things, the value that they thought that Bill Belichick brought was the fact that he helps elevate North Carolina football. And if you can get them maybe an ACC, listen, 2030 is a long way away, but it really isn't. Let's say Bill Belichick gets you a singular ACC championship, maybe 2 trips to the playoff. All of a sudden, you become a much more appealing property for the ACC, for the SEC or the Big Ten going forward. So anyway, I don't want to oversell this story. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. What I do think is these realignment conversations are constantly going on. I remember the day Texas and Oklahoma left for the SEC and the first Clemson-Florida State rumor started. People were like, Florida State and Clemson aren't going anywhere. It's like, of course they're not going anywhere now. Doesn't mean that they're not having conversation. So I thought it was an interesting story from Brett McMurphy. Thought it could signify the next wave that's coming. But just thought it was interesting here on a Friday as we get ready for week 1. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a couple more of your questions. Let's see here. By the way, Luke just brings up a point about this realignment stuff. North Carolina lawmakers have tried to tie UNC and NC State together in realignment. I imagine Virginia lawmakers would do the same with Virginia and Virginia Tech. Luke, it's a great point. The only thing that I would say about that is that historically was a huge deal. And then we kind of saw in the last round of realignment, it's kind of a survival of the fittest. It's Darwinism, right? Oklahoma, by the way, if you remember, about 15 years ago, we were going to get a Pac-16. Remember that? It was going to be Texas, Oklahoma. I believe Texas Tech maybe was the third Texas team, and then Oklahoma State. And basically, part of it, the reason it didn't happen was because Oklahoma wasn't going to leave without Oklahoma State. Well, guess what? Oklahoma had a chance to go to the SEC with Texas. They did it. Oregon and Washington had a chance to go to the Big 10, without Oregon State and Washington State. This stuff has changed. And I think if Virginia has to make a move to protect themselves, if North Carolina has to make a move to protect themselves, they'll do just that. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, one more break. When we come back, we're going to do a little college hoops, actually, because I'll tell you why. College football, big games in college football, it means big recruiting weekends in college basketball. A lot of star players are on the move. We'll take a quick break, go ahead and tell you who are the big players making big visits this weekend. We'll be right back. I got to pull up the commercial. Producer Matt is not here today. All right, for real. 3, 2, 1. Be right back.
What's up, everybody? It's AT, and I've told you before, when I'm on the road, when I'm podcasting, sometimes you end up looking like a slob. Look at me, mismatched socks, I'm wearing shorts. What am I doing? The folks at Firebox said, Torres, let's get you some fresh gear to look better when you're on camera. Well, what do you think? This is all part of the spring collection for Firebox. These jeans, perfect when I want to go to games, casual, serious, business casual, you name it. Got the quarter zip. And oh, by the way, we got this perfect zip. This is the perfect spring, summer zip that you can wear when you're out with friends. Maybe it gets a little chilly. Maybe it's a little chilly in the morning. Perfect for all occasions. So this is what I need you to do. If you like what you see, and you should, what I need you to do is visit Firebox.com. That's Firebox.com, F-I-O-B-O-C. By the way, Firebox has a special promo code for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. Use promo code Torres and get 20% off your purchase. Thank you again to Firebox. By the way, make sure that you're following them on social media at Firebox, F-I-O-B-O-C. Thank you, Firebox.
All right, everybody. I'm back. Good to be back. Final segment of the show. So good to be back. Do want to go ahead and wrap. So we do this every Friday during college football season. By the way, this will be our last show until Sunday afternoon. We will do a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon show maybe around this time, recapping week 1. Then we'll be back on the Tuesday schedule, on and on, okay? But I do want to go ahead and wrap, and I'll tell you why. It is because as college football ramps up, okay? As college football ramps up, what that also means is these big college football Saturdays become big recruiting weekends in college basketball. And basically every weekend from now until the middle of November, all of your favorite schools are going to be hosting big-time recruits essentially around these big-time college football games on campus. So what I want to go ahead and do is go ahead and get to some of the big recruiting stories heading into the weekend. Should mention, by the way, if you are going to any games, if you need any last-minute tickets, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres gets you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. But like I said, college hoops with college football underway, it means that these campus visits become big visit weekends for college basketball. Let's go ahead and get to some of the big campus visits that will go on this weekend, because I do think that this is, it's kind of primetime recruiting if you're a college hoops fan. By the way, again, producer Matt is not here, so the graphics are not going to be what they usually are. But quick shout out to producer Matt, who is in Waco, Texas for the Auburn-Baylor game on Friday night. All right, very quickly. First big piece of recruiting news. This one broke just within the last couple days, okay? So Caleb Holt is one of the top 5 players in high school basketball. I love Caleb Holt. He's one of my favorite players to watch. I'll be totally transparent, because the bottom line is, at the end of the day, he is just a dude that makes everybody around him better, okay? About 6'4", 6'5" guard, played for that Team USA team that won a gold medal. He was one of the younger players, along with Tyron Stokes, Brandon McCoy, one of the younger guys on that roster. And I love the way that he kind of melded his game into being able to play with other guys that are talented, right? So he wasn't the star. He wasn't the starter. He came off the bench, was kind of a third guard at times, was a scorer, was a shooter, was a bucket getter. I thought was a very productive summer for him. Coming out of the summer, by the way, I've kind of compared his game, I really think, to Cason Wallace. He kind of reminds me a lot of Cason Wallace. Can kind of play on the ball, off the ball, whatever. Coming out of the summer, there were 3 schools that felt like they were in control. Auburn and Alabama. He's he plays in the Atlanta area, both an easy drive for him. And then Kentucky kind of made a push. If you remember, Mark Pope was an on-court coach for Team USA with Caleb Holt. And Caleb Holt kind of was raving about Mark Pope coming out of that experience. Well, I bring it up because Caleb Holt, a little bit of a surprise over the last couple days, announced that he will take a visit this coming weekend to John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks. By the way, always make sure you're following our Torres on the Hogs account for late breaking news on Arkansas. Torres on the Hogs. They've done a great job covering this recruitment. Where does Arkansas fit in this recruitment? I'll be honest. It feels a little early, but listen, if you're getting a visit, and by the way, I should mention with Caleb Holt, also Kansas very much in the mix as well. He's an Adidas kid, so you would think that they'll be in play. Bring it up to very simply say that with Caleb Holt, I think those 5 are going to be the 5. I don't think this is going to be, take 15 different visits. Auburn, Alabama already have visits on the books. So does Kentucky, Kansas, etc. But going to Arkansas, listen, I just don't think you can count out Coach Cal. And the thing that stands out to me about Arkansas, they're going to very clearly need bodies in the backcourt and on the wings next year, right? Carter Knox, we assume, is going to go pro after this year. Darius Acuff, we assume, is going to be a one-and-done guy. DJ Wagner, after 3 years, might just decide, college basketball is enough for me. I've done enough. And so I just bring it up. Malik Thomas might be a one-and-done. So I bring it up because Arkansas might need to completely replace its backcourt. You talk about rev share and the money that's available. I think Arkansas is going to have more than most for basketball, and more could be available just knowing, again, Carter Knox might not be back. DJ Wagner might not be back. Darius Acuff almost certainly won't be back. So I would just kind of keep an eye on Arkansas. Again, Caleb Holt is going to visit Kentucky, Auburn, and Alabama in the coming days. Just something to pay attention to. Let's keep it going because another elite guard, by the way, that has links to Arkansas, he is going to be on the road this weekend. A football team that I love that everybody else hates is the Indiana Hoosiers. They're hosting Old Dominion this weekend, but Indiana is going to host a very big basketball recruit, number 1 point guard in America, Talon Kinney, expected to visit Indiana. Listen, we've talked about Talon Kinney. He's originally from the state of Kentucky. I saw him at Adidas about a month ago. Really like that kid's game. Okay. He's about 6 foot. He's listed at 6'1". I think by now he's closer to probably like 6'3", 6'4". Super athletic, gets to his spots. Love the way that he plays. And really, I think he's kind of like wiry strong. I think he's getting much stronger. Plays for Overtime Elite. And he is a player that kind of did a lot of visits early, although this Indiana visit will obviously be here in the fall for a football game. Visited Purdue over the summer, visited Louisville over the summer, visited Kentucky over the summer. My guess would be that right now he's Louisville's to get and Louisville's to beat. Louisville is going to have a point guard opening with Mikel Brown Jr. In the coming year. Mikel Brown Jr. is going to be a one and done type talent for Louisville. And so they're going to need a point guard. This kid's from Kentucky. He's an Adidas kid. I would assume that Talon Kinney ends up at Louisville. But listen, Indiana is an Adidas school. He's kind of from that geographic footprint of the country, and you just never know. Indiana, by the way, has a lot of veteran older guys as well, so they may need him as well. Let's keep it going. Kind of a busy weekend for North Carolina. So North Carolina, obviously the Tar Heels, Hubert Davis, pseudo make or break year. To Hubert Davis's credit, though, he's recruited pretty well in the high school ranks. Caleb Wilson this past year, I know it didn't work out with Ian Jackson, but landed him. 2 big visitors on campus this weekend. The first, Deron Rippey Jr. Okay, so Deron Rippey Jr., 6-foot guard out of the New York City area. First of all, Carolina has recruited New York City very well. Again, Ian Jackson, Elliot Cadeau didn't work out, but doesn't mean that they haven't been able to close on guys in that area. But 6-foot guard, gets to his spots, really athletic. I really enjoyed watching him play at that Adidas event that I mentioned a few weeks ago and thought he was actually phenomenal. He's a little bit undersized, but gets to his spots, finishes at the rim, very good 3-point shooter. And so I'm curious to see what this means for his recruitment. Now, I don't want to oversell this, and I'll tell you why. It's because Deron Rippey Jr. has, how about this, 8 different official visits set up. Last time I checked, I don't know if I have all of them. Let me see if I have all of them down off the top of my head here. But Deron Rippey Jr. is going to visit. Let's see if I have them all. I don't have all of them, but let me put it this way. Pretty much everybody. Everybody from the Blue Bloods like Kentucky and Carolina this weekend. Not Kentucky this weekend. Just visited Miami. He's supposed to visit Syracuse, Tennessee, Kansas, NC State. So he's got a lot of visits on his docket. Now, it's always worth noting, just because you have visits scheduled doesn't mean you make all of them. But I believe at last count, he has 8 official visits. Don't know if he'll get to all of them, but he is on campus at Carolina this weekend. We'll see what happens at Carolina. Obviously, a very veteran, transfer-heavy team this year, but Hubert Davis is always going to recruit 5-stars. We'll see what happens there. Also, by the way, Tony Bryant, 6'10" center/forward out of Florida, is going to be visiting Carolina as well. He's won not a ton on his recruitment. He's supposed to visit Missouri next week, NC State maybe at some point down the road. Just bring it up because you get him on campus, that means you're in the mix. 6'10" center. Whatever you think about Hubert, listen, Hubert Davis, his best teams, when they have that true 5-man, he's been pretty good. Was good with Armando Bacot 2 years ago. They won the ACC. Kind of think they're going to be pretty good with Henry Visar this year. Visar would have 1 year of eligibility after this year, but you just never know. You don't know how it's going to shake out. So Tony Bryant joining Duron Rippey Jr. on campus this weekend at Carolina. And I'll tell you, it's full speed ahead with Carolina. They certainly have plenty of money. As I said a minute ago, they're trying to push to get into the SEC or Big Ten at some point. So it's full speed ahead with both of those programs, football and basketball. Really quickly, I think this is the first time we've got an NC State appearance on one of these Friday afternoon recruiting clips here. That is because NC State is hosting a fast-rising senior named Cole Kloer, 6'7" forward, originally from North Carolina, who is now playing high school basketball in the state of Florida. So Cole Kloer, listen, I'll just be transparent. You know how I know somebody's kind of a guy that regardless of ranking is a good player? Who is recruiting him? And this summer, there were 3 programs that prioritized the crap out of this kid: UConn, Alabama, and Florida. If Dan Hurley, Todd Golden, and Nate Oates want you, it means you can play. 6'7", can put the ball on the floor, can step out, can hit threes. Well, he's visiting North Carolina State this weekend. And the one thing I'll say, we know Will Wade takes a backseat to no one in recruiting, okay? And so I think the other variable here, Cole Kloer, as I said, grew up in North Carolina. He actually grew up an NC State fan. So they got the hometown push. They got the hometown this. They got the hometown that. And I'll be curious to see if they can make an impression. Now, Cole Kloer's recruitment has picked up over the last couple weeks. He will visit Carolina, also visit Kentucky and Arkansas. So when John Calipari wants you and Mark Pope with that big NIL war chest wants you, you know that you can play. Also expected to visit UConn 2 weeks from now. And I'll just tell you this really quick, is that, when UConn wants you as bad as they do, a couple things. One, you can play, but 2, UConn generally, let me put it this way. UConn really focuses and locks in on not very many guys during a recruiting cycle. When they're locked in on you, they normally get you. Braylon Mullins last year, Steph Castle previous year, et cetera. We'll see what happens. I would still say UConn's the favorite there. School that, player that I thought UConn might be a favorite for earlier that I definitely don't think so, Dylan Mingo. Very interesting prospect, 6'5", from the state of New York. Top 10 prospect, was the MBPA Top 100 Camp MVP, 6'5", wiry guard, kind of that perfect UConn type guard. They have Silas Demery this year. They had Tristan Newton. And I thought early in the recruitment that Dylan Mingo might be, a UConn lead. I just bring it up to solely say he is visiting Miami this weekend, and his recruitment has certainly taken on a couple interesting twists. One, with Miami, I think it's worth noting, credit Jay Lucas. Jay Lucas, as a recruiter, he's now the head coach at Miami, comes from Duke. He takes a backseat to no one in recruiting, okay? And so to me, that's important. They had Duron Rippey Jr. on campus earlier this week. Now they get Dylan Mingo. Dylan Mingo also, by the way, visited Washington a few weeks ago. I don't know where Washington is in the pecking order. This one's wide open. The kid's from New York. Like I said, one of his former high school teammates, Jacob Ross and Jaden Ross, play at UConn. But to me, I think it's wide open. I don't even know where to speculate, but Miami does have this kid on campus. We'll see if they can close him. Finally, let's stay in the ACC, because I'll say this, the new blood of coaching, I think, is going to lead to better play on the court. Will Wade's recruiting at a high level, Jay Lucas at Miami. This one is intriguing. Cameron Williams, top 15 prospect in America. I think he'll be a top 5 prospect before this class is all said and done. Cameron Williams, 6'11" center who plays like he's 6'7". I don't want to do the KD comparison, but 6'7" dude that can shoot, that can put the ball on the floor, whatever. I think he's one of the best players in high school basketball. He's visiting, we mentioned the ACC, SMU this weekend. I know SMU, it feels like, why would SMU even get a visit? Why would he be in the mix? He's from Arizona. He played for a post kind of producing a ton of NBA talent. One of the players who, of course, played at USC, Andy Enfield coached at USC, who was an assistant at USC, Evan Mobley's dad, Eric Mobley. He's a little bit of a big man whisperer. I could see SMU making a move on this kid. Still think he's Arizona or Duke's to get. All right, I'll tell you what, it looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. If you're not subscribed to the Aaron Torres pod, by the way, great crowd here on a Thursday morning. We're going to do Thursday morning shows going forward, picks, preview for the weekend ahead, all of that. If you're not subscribed, please make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate your support. Make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, closing in on 59,000 subscribers. And then, oh, by the way, make sure that you are following on social media at Aaron_Torres, at Aaron Torres Pod on Instagram. By the way, there is one more thing I do have to mention. You already know. I got to thank our friends. I got to thank our partners. I got to thank Collie Puffs and ColliePuffs.com. Okay, so ColliePuffs.com, I've told you all about them. Family-owned company, not far from where I live. Listen, it's football season. It's tailgate season. You need a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something you're going to love, something your kids are going to love. You need Collie Puffs. Baked, not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients, but the best part is these puppies taste delicious. You don't even need to take my word for it. You can try them out for yourself with a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. All you got to do is go to ColliePuffs.com. That's ColliePuffs.com. Use promo code Torres, Torres. You get 15% off your purchase. ColliePuffs.com, promo code Torres for 15% off your first purchase. Thank you to Collie Puffs. We appreciate their support. By the way, while we're here, thank you to Circa Sportsbook. Again, if you're looking for a place to watch games, you live on that Kentucky-Tennessee border, Circa Sportsbook has now opened a satellite facility, Mint Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky. Go check it out. Tag us at Aaron_Torres when you go. And also, thank you to SeatGeek, our ticketing partner for the football season ahead. Use SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres to get 15% off, or get $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres, $20 off your first purchase. All right, I'm getting out of here. That was a busy Friday show. Thank you. Shout out to Tor and Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. By the way, shout out to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Engaged. We'll talk Sunday afternoon. Sunday morning, we'll be live back talking college football.